You got that new digs on.
I know. The new Cascade shirts. I like them, man.
Cascade shirts. They're nice. They feel good on the skin.
Yeah, they're nice material.
Yeah.
That's a big thing with T-shirts with me.
Mm-hmm. You can't buy those old boxy ones
I hate
anymore.
those things, and they like just feel. Yeah.
Well, it used to be when you'd buy like T-shirts for a brand or something. That was like all you could do. It's going to cost you like $7. Yeah. It's going to be all boxy and fit poopily.
And just feel like crap. Yeah. And you never wear it.
Now you can get like premium stuff.
Yeah, I dig it.
Which maybe in the future we will have some.
Mm-hmm. We're still field testing the rash guards.
Yes, and then we'll do some probably some T-shirts.
That'd be a good idea.
Something like that.
And we can test those.
Yeah.
Cool.
How's it going, Liv?
It's going good.
Looking beautiful.
Oh, that's very sweet.
Yeah, you did good at jiu-jitsu today.
Thank you.
Okay, that's weird. So
I was like, I'm waiting on the setup here. I'm like,
come, let me see your feet.
What are you doing?
What?
So we got a bunch of questions that came in.
Okay.
We have someone from the last episode that was asking us about sleep, and they were struggling with that sort of thing.
Oh, that's the guy that was waking up early?
Yes.
That guy?
Yes. Yeah. He has like the 5-hour windows. He responded.
Cool.
Okay. Turns out he's actually from Port Angeles.
Our
boy CJ Boyd from Fifth Element Jiu-Jitsu.
Nice.
Port Angeles.
Very cool.
He was going to look for us at Grappling Industries, but yeah, we did not cross paths. We were coaching a lot, so.
Well, and you were interrupting me coaching too, so he could have heard we almost broke out in a little scuffle there.
Well, at least you're not sensitive about it.
No, not at all.
But we said we kind of want some more information.
Yeah.
I'm just going to briefly run over what he first said. You can listen to last episode to hear how Chris responded. But he said, my wife and I started taking morning cold showers over the summer, and we really like the effect. We both have sleep problems, and I think it's helping with our circadian rhythm. However, lately I've been waking up about 5 hours and not being able to get back to sleep. I was wondering if anyone else had noticed this from starting to do cold therapy and stuff like that. Or is it most likely to be non-correlated and just personal sleep issues? So you said...
it could be.
Could be, but we need just a little bit more.
And I was going to ask him just to kind of see, since he just started doing this, to kind of wait it out a little bit, see if his body adapted to it a bit.
Yeah, let's see kind of how things progress. It could just be a growing pain of sort.
Yeah.
So he did respond. A good quality response, very long. Okay. So I'm going to read through it.
Yeah, please do.
Once again, I don't really prep Chris on any of this stuff. We just kind of go in cold because we like the organic.
And you like to see me get all
which
spun up.
Will happen in a little bit when I bring up a couple questions that are, I think, intentionally submitted to
troll me,
get your beehole in a little twist.
Nice. Okay, I like the trolls.
Get those hemorrhoids up in there.
Okay.
So he says nights he does jiu-jitsu. He gets to bed about 10 p.m. And he wakes up at 6 a.m. He has moderately gnarly and painful scoliosis, which makes it hard to actually sleep sometimes, especially after a heavy jiu-jitsu session or kickboxing. And then he works a physical job. Nights he doesn't have class. He goes to bed about 8 p.m. actually. When his wife goes to bed, and he tries to sleep in until 6. So he tries to get a really heavy sleep night on those ones that he does not train. This weird 5-hour sleep thing happens intermittent throughout the week. But when he emailed us, it had been the 4th night in a row and had been popping up off and on for a couple weeks. But he emailed us because it was 4 days in a row. It's like, holy smokes, is it getting worse? So that was his thought. Aside from massive can't get back to sleep and I have to work in the morning anxiety, he feels pretty good between quitting smoking and drinking ish. He still drinks a little bit, but not over excessive. Trying to get plenty of sleep, eating well, doing jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, strength training, kettlebell. This is my best swing at being healthy.
How old is he?
Do not know.
That's an important point, too. Yes. It'd be nice to know.
Can we say 30s? Can we just assume
Are you just assuming?
I am a little bit. Okay. But I don't want to make an ass out of you and me.
Well, yeah, he could.
Give me that rim shot. Hey!
I don't want any rim shots around you.
You kidding me?
Yes.
You get the joke, though.
Oh, I get the joke. Okay. Assume. Yeah. Thank you for spoon feeding me that.
You're welcome.
I'm not full on dementia yet.
Spoon feed you something. Okay. Just to finish it up.
But anyway, so if you just a real quick, that would kind of complete the
age
The
thing.
age would be really important.
Okay. He says, I don't mess with melatonin or any sleep aids other than beating the F out of myself at work and the gym. He mentions I have to censor myself. I'm interested in how the cold showers will change in temperature as it gets colder through the winter. I enjoy them most on mornings after a heavy gym night.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So with that extra information, we're going to go back to the allostatic load.
Okay.
So what's his name again?
CJ.
Yeah. Do you know what episode that is?
The
Stress Cup. Yeah.
Can you look that up and
But
then say
so
it when you get it?
We're going to put this whole case in that context, and it's really important to have that conceptual framework, I think, to talk about this. Your body, brain is only equipped to deal with a certain amount of stress at any given time, and still be able to adapt successfully. Okay.
Okay.
Episode 4.
Wow, it's an early one, episode 4. Okay. So when you exceed that consistently, we get into an elevated stress response. It's called allostatic load. And your body is failing to adapt to that, whether it's physical, emotional, other forms of stress, anxiety, depression, all these type of things, work stress, the whole 9 yards, financial. Okay. It all comes into one cup, so to speak. And once that fills up, you're unable, at least for that day, you're unable to adapt further. And that's why we talked about during that heart rate variability is kind of a nice thing to track. I would suspect that he is in an overtrained state, and then adding the cold, which, oh, by the way, is beneficial, but it's still a stress to the system.
Just like working out.
How it works is through a hormetic response. Hormesis, was that in the same, I think that was in the same episode. Hormesis is when we have a challenge, whether it's physical, whatever, a stressor that our body is forced to adapt to, like weight training or whatever, right, to come back stronger. Okay, so it can be a detrimental stressor, but your body can adapt to it. If your body's failing to adapt to it, and you're adding this other stressor on top of it, which could be a good thing under certain circumstances. For instance, CJ, this last week, I did not do my cold plunge. And the reason why I did not is because I was already getting sick. I was already overtrained. And even though it's a quote unquote good thing, that would send me over the edge further. Okay. And that goes for sauna too and things like that.
Right.
Okay. So what I think is happening with the early awakening, I think he's having an early cortisol response because our cortisol is secreted in what we call a diurnal pattern. In other words, just like our circadian rhythm, it follows it. So we have our highest level of cortisol early in the morning, and it's secreted naturally to wake us up and get us alert again. It's a stress hormone. Okay. Then that increases in the morning, and then during the day into the night, it steadily falls. And that allows the nervous system to kind of calm down and stress response. But those of us that are savages, like we do, we train at night.
Right.
Okay. So that, as we've talked about previously, that's not optimal. But guess what? I'm not going to stop doing it because that's when I can do it.
And, work and life.
Heavy, and he has a physical job too. Yeah. I would suspect that he's having dysregulated cortisol response, and he's having an early cortisol. Since he's in Port Angeles, I would highly recommend he find someone like Carrie. Carrie's not too far in Stanwood, not really that far. I mean, it's
one of those things where you're going to do one visit.
Yeah, but what she does with people like that is get 24-hour cortisols on them. Throughout the day, they put this little, it looks like this little miniature sponge you put, and you get salivary cortisol levels. So you have like 3 or 4 of those throughout the day, and different times of the day you put one in there. I forgot how long. You take it out and put it in a test tube and seal it up. And then they can generate a cortisol curve for you, okay, if you really want the data. Or you can assume that's what's going on and treat it empirically with something like ashwagandha, one of these adaptogens, or phosphatidylserine, to help kind of blunt that cortisol response at night. Almost no side effects, and something to be willing to try without getting all that, it'd be nice to kind of have that nailed down with data, with the testing. But what he could try is to start using an adaptogen. I like phosphatidylserine quite a bit, and you can get that. And you take that before bed, about 30 minutes before bed, especially after your training nights. And it will blunt that cortisol response. So if you're having an inappropriate cortisol secretion earlier than you should, which is probably what's going on, we call that tired but wired. You'll be waking up and you're like, dude, I know I'm exhausted, but I'm freaking can't go back to sleep. I would almost guess that's what's happening to him, and adding the additional stressor may have put him over the top on that.
I see. Yeah, when our current ashwagandha bottle finishes up, we already got our phosphatidyl.
Yeah, and your phosphatidylserine, and so you basically they work fairly similarly. But I always say with supplements to cycle them.
Right, and that's why we're doing it.
Yeah, and so
it's anecdotal, but when I started taking ashwagandha, because I had the same thing where I'm kind of a night owl a bit. So I do go to sleep a bit later. I am one of these people that can function with 5 hours of sleep. Obviously, it's probably not optimal, but I whether that's mental strength or whatever.
But your cup's going to get smaller as you age.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and when I started taking ashwagandha, like Olivia will say, it was like 7 a.m. I'm waking up on my own, like that. Where you're wired but tired kind of thing.
Yeah.
As soon as I started taking ashwagandha, especially on training days, I mean, I could sleep until 8:30.
Yeah.
And it was.
Well, and that's what I would suspect is doing something like that, because I would almost guarantee he's having dysregulated cortisol. And we need cortisol, right? But not at the wrong times, right? It follows a circadian rhythm. Now, that's where the cold shower, cold plunge, or whatever, when you're feeling really kind of rough, I would skip it. You're just adding more to your cup for that day. And then when your body can't adapt successfully, then we get into a stress response and we start getting dysregulated cortisol. I would say a good thing to start first is either ashwagandha before bed or phosphatidylserine. And then maybe a week later, also add to that L-theanine, which will help.
In the morning?
No.
At night.
At night.
Yeah.
Both of these are at night.
Yeah.
And that will help actually calm the nervous system down. We have, and this is a gross oversimplification, we have competing neurotransmitters for basically alertness and kind of bringing the nervous system down. GABA is the one that kind of brings things kind of down, right?
Okay.
Anti-anxiety medications like Xanax and all that work on the GABA receptor. Okay. But L-theanine actually feeds into the system to provide building blocks for GABA. So we're not just swamping the system with, hitting the receptor. We're giving building blocks for that neurotransmitter. So that can also help, especially after your training days when you're still jacked up from training and going to bed late, right? So CJ, I would almost guarantee you that, never 100% with medicine. Yeah. But I almost guarantee you have a dysregulated cortisol. I would really go listen to the Stress Cup episode, Allostatic Load, and really start listening. There's ways you can we talk about it in that episode, how you can kind of gauge the state of your nervous system in the morning. Yeah. One, you can start tracking heart rate variability, which is very useful. And we talk about how to do that. And the other, you can start using the grip strength little protocol that we talk about as well in that, and as far as overtraining. And I think we'd have was that the same episode as overtraining, or are they two different ones?
I think we touched on the overtraining because
I think we did another one with overtraining.
We understand overtraining is a lot of time just under
recovered. Absolutely,
it's just an easy way to say
whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
but it's all allostatic load. It all goes back to that.
And I think I know the answer, but just to reiterate, because we're talking about all these things that are positive stressors, as in they have a lot of positive benefits, but they do add stress to our system. Working out, cold plunge, sauna, yada, yada, yada.
Sunlight. Too much, you're at risk for skin cancer, DNA damage. Not enough, you're not making adequate vitamin D.
Right.
But the right dose, the hormetic dose, you're making.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's beneficial.
Mint chocolate chip ice cream. Perfect example, right?
No.
Excuse me?
Well, I know you.
So
For some people, yes.
yes.
For you, it's a gateway drug.
So you said yes.
No, not for you.
You said yes, and I heard it.
Okay.
You can't lie to my face like that.
That's fine.
So
We're saving. Olivia and I are saving for your diabetes health savings account, just for your
Future insulin shots.
yeah,
there's a lot
yeah.
of insulin frozen in the fridge right now. She's like waiting.
If you're a type 2 and you ever get to the insulin thing, you're down the drain already, man.
Really?
Type 2s that are on insulin is not good. Type 2s should never, I mean, you're making, first of all, you're making too much insulin at first. Yeah, until you burn your beta cells out. So,
I don't know
anyway.
those. They're beta. Bitch ass cells.
Pretty important.
So what I was getting at is,
Okay.
let's say, because it sounds like he's training a decent amount.
Yeah.
Whether it's jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, strength training.
Yeah.
Okay. Is another stressor that can affect all of this, it's kind of simple, but it's just life. As in, if you're dealing with BS at work.
That's what I'm saying.
You're dealing with family stuff.
Yep.
You got your in-laws that are yelling at you or something. You're gonna be moving soon, so that's just stressful in
Yep.
general. You're selling your house.
You have a terrible
Yes.
commute.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
your
Terrible
commute
commute.
sucks.
All yeses.
Okay.
So that's where the whole stress cup, it's called allostatic load, but the whole visualization of a cup, and then any given day, all those things just add a little bit in there. And if you go back, we actually did a visual on that where we're pouring stuff into the cup, right? Whether it's poor sleep, whether it's whatever, work stress,
Yeah.
commute, whatever.
So even if he does
It's all stressors.
kick, like he's like, well, man, I'm only doing jiu-jitsu twice a week. I do kickboxing once a week.
But he has a hard job.
Right, he has a hard job, and then if he's got a hard job with a jerk off of a boss.
Let's just
Yeah,
speculate.
just throwing it out there. It's the kids are a handful right now.
Yeah.
Let's say he's got
Totally.
that age or something like that.
So, yeah,
This is anybody, not just CJ.
No, of course, but this is a perfect example though. And sometimes you got to dial back something, right? And so start with the cortisol management first. That's what I would do for him. And then really try to get a handle on your training a little bit, because you want to do the minimum effective dose of training. For instance, I was coming off of being sick. You saw me on Saturday. I went in there. I worked with some white belts, did some rolling with them where I wasn't exhausting myself.
Wasn't a dogfight or something,
I did one round with Andrew Jong, and we basically were going after each other's feet. Another one of our black belts. But I intentionally dialed back my training on Saturday because I'm already have a mostly full stress cup while being ill. Right. And so, but at first start getting some, because if you don't start managing something right now for him, then that poor sleep is just going to add to a stress cup. So I would empirically, in other words,
in our visual, that made the cup actually smaller.
well, or fills it up more.
Right.
Yeah.
So it can't hold it.
Usually, I think you could go either way. Usually, I think the size of the cup is with your as you age, right? So when you're 20, you have this huge cup, and you can throw a bunch of crap in there, come in hungover, whatever.
Yeah.
But when you're my age in your 50s, that you have a little Dixie cup, maybe.
Right. Yeah.
So you have to manage that. And so
A lot of meanings with that, Chris.
I recognize. That was you, Bill, making that noise. But at first for CJ, manage the cortisol first, hopefully start getting some good sleep, and maybe that snowball will start rolling the right way where he's getting better sleep, then he feels better, he's not having a big stress response. So
I'd be interested to hear him check back in a couple weeks.
And and CJ, if you can ever get down to Cascade on Saturdays, man, it'd be cool to kind of chat with you.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
You're welcome anytime, of course.
I had a question real quick with the phosphatidylserine.
Yeah.
If someone's using edibles as well to support their sleep, is there any interaction between the two?
So there's always interaction. The thing is it negative or not? Is it synergistic or is it? Yeah. So I haven't found a problem. Just put it that way.
Okay.
Because I do have a very low. I'm a big fan of low doing CBD but very low THC. It's mostly for to drive the CBD kind of component.
Yeah.
They work synergistically. I haven't had any bad interactions with those at all. where you got to be careful with stuff is when you start, like if you're on Xanax and then you're drinking or something like that, right? Where they're both hitting the GABA receptor and or opioids or something terrible like that. No, that's a good question. I don't think there's a problem with that at all.
Yeah, I mean, I take the same. I take edibles at night and I take ashwagandha.
But you mix. You have like a 1-to-1.
It's a 1-to-1. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's our. Unless we run out, we have like backups that I think are 5-to-1. And
what?
I go on a little spaceship.
Yeah, that's a little rough for me. I
Space
can't.
rocket.
Yeah, I can't do that stuff. Too much THC can be
I just
rough.
always think it's good to ask those questions, just because
Yeah.
with edibles you just don't know, and drugs interact.
It's such a good
especially
question.
With sleep, if
Olivia
it's helping
came
with sleep and then
downstairs
you have
one day and I was
multiple-
riding our golden retriever.
No.
She's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm riding this unicorn."
Okay, this is a note to the kids out there. This is why certain people should not use certain, like cannabis isn't for everyone.
That's true.
If you're riding your golden retriever like a unicorn, it's a problem.
What was that movie back in the day? Valcor?
Oh, Never Ending Story.
Yeah.
It's Falcor.
Falcor.
Yeah.
It was like that.
Okay, that's not good.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's your opinion. So
Well, I mean, true. I just feel for your golden retriever.
it's got a strong back. Okay. So
Yes, CJ. So, yeah, let me know if you have any other questions about that. That's
sure.
a really, really good question.
and tell us how old you are, your address, and your social security number. Thank you. Moving on. We have some hot topics have come about on the YouTubes. Some very spicy takes. And we need to ask you about them.
Oh, God.
So basically, recovery is fake. PRP is not legit. Peptides are a scam. And people pretty much only do it because Joe Hogan and they want to tell their friends how cool they are.
Interesting.
What do you think about that opinion?
Was that one person's opinion of all those things?
Yes.
They may be a douchebag. So this is the thing when people say that, and they're probably a troll,
Oh.
Well, really, because people that say that don't have an inquisitive mind. Okay, just because Joe Rogan says something certainly doesn't mean it's correct.
True.
It also doesn't mean it's wrong. And he doesn't have the background to kind of talk about the nuances. If you want to talk about the effects of peptides, get into the literature. Carrie can drop you a box full of papers showing the benefits of various peptides. She goes to a course that they're very scientifically sound. Okay, so they are definitely have a place for certain people. Of course, nothing's a panacea and one size fits all, but they absolutely can be very effective. As you talk to half the people in our gym that she works with injuries, that BPC 157 alone is a game changer.
Is 5 years ago, was the science still out a little bit?
No, it just wasn't as mainstream. The problem right now is peptides have become mainstream and kind of like, no, they've had a good amount of science behind them. It's just now that it's in what we call the zeitgeist, right? Where everyone is now all of a sudden talking about them, and Rogan's, he didn't just make it up. He goes to a functional medicine doctor, regenerative medicine, that has been probably doing this for years. And now he's like, wow, this crap works.
Whether that's Ways to Well or
whatever.
What's that OTM? Scotty on the Mac guy in
I don't know. I don't follow that.
It's where like Eddie Bravo went to do their PRP stuff. It's in like Panama or something like that.
Not PRP. You're talking about they go to do their stem cell stuff.
Yeah, stem cell.
Yeah. So that's one. So, first of all,
I got more too. On
I
this.
know.
Okay.
Do a little research first before you make statements. That goes to everyone.
Well, we're going to tag the guy that said this, which I will reveal after the next part.
Fantastic. That's one. Okay. So Carrie can come on and give you peer-reviewed studies on various peptides. We've known about them for a long time. The problem is when something gets popularized, it's very much like the semaglutide.
It's everywhere.
Well, I know it is, but now people are like, "Oh, it's bullshit." Blah blah. And here's when it gets into the public kind of sphere, there people want to just crap on it, or maybe they don't like Joe Rogan, and like I said,
it's getting a lot of hate right now.
What, semaglutide?
Yeah.
Of course, again, there's nuance to this stuff, right? So the peptides are absolutely clinically useful. I mean, you're not going to tell any of our 40 and 50-year-old dudes that are getting treated that no longer have to have shoulder surgery because of regenerative medicine, including peptides. So, in which, by the way, that segues into the next one about PRP.
Yeah.
So, platelet-rich plasma, it depends on what you're treating. Again, the nuance here. So, for lateral epicondylitis, or aka tennis elbow, that has been refractory to conservative management for a year, it is very well recognized as a superior treatment in the medical literature. PRP shot in intra-articular into knees hasn't really shown us a whole bunch, right? Not as much into shoulders either. It's really good and targeted into tendons that have tendinopathy. So again, just don't throw the baby out with the bathwater and say it's all bullshit, you know, because it's not. It doesn't mean that it's good for everything either.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just have them look up lateral epicondylitis and PRP, you know, on PubMed.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. And so recovery is not fake, in your opinion.
I don't even know what that means. That's a troll. That's a troll
think the
thing.
person
That's like
asked-
saying space is fake.
I think, well, I think the person that submitted the question was because there was a podcast, which I will reveal in a minute, that came out, and there was two guys, very prominent people talking, and I think the person that submitted the question kind of reworded it a little bit with the recovery is fake thing, because the person that submitted this is a little bit of a troll himself. But question and opinion for you.
So do you want me, is that the recovery is fake thing? Do you
No,
want
there's
me
more.
to respond to that?
There's more.
Okay.
No, I don't.
Okay.
This kind of goes into it. So in that podcast that talked about the PRP and all that, another thing came up. And that is stretching does not prevent injury, but it can improve performance. Comes from this podcast.
Okay.
Increased mobility and flexibility means you'll have increased range of motion in a certain position. However, it also means you'll be less strong in those positions. Your thoughts, Chris Hardy?
Stretching.
Dr. Chris Hardy.
Stretching. And by the way, I'm also a certified strength and conditioning specialist. I've been I'm saying
But
that.
have you written a book?
Yes, but I'm what a setup. I'm saying this because I've been in that training profession longer than I've been a physician, actually.
Right.
So I've been heavy in this literature for a long time, not just some doctor that thinks he knows about strength and conditioning. Okay. So
You don't wear pleated pants.
I do not.
Okay.
Okay. So stretching itself, that is correct. For the longest time, there was no evidence of injury prevention with stretching. What does that mean? Homogeneous word, stretching.
Yeah.
What type? PNF stretching? You know what I mean? I mean, what do we mean by static stretching? It does not prevent injury. And flexibility and mobility are two different things. If you talk to the FRS guys, the functional range system guys, who are brilliant, have really hashed this out and shown that, static stretching before like a power event is not a good idea. You'll start to, so we actually use part of the stretch reflex for power activities, like a jumping or something like that. The myotatic reflex is actually part of that and can aid in performance. So when I get ready to go to jump, I do that dip, and then I jump. So I actually load that reflex, and it actually helps with my performance. So something that inhibits that reflex prior to a power-based feat of whatever athleticism, it absolutely can hinder performance. So that's true. Now, what are we talking about? Again, this is the nuance, right? Well, what if you're like, well, I don't want to do that. I'm a rock climber. That's very different. It is a much more of a isometric, a weird angle type of strength generation. That's where a mobility program where we're training strength at end range. We're not just stretching.
Which relates into jiu-jitsu as well, right?
Exactly, and that's a lot of the stuff I'm putting out for our workouts. I'm training in the FRS guys. We're training strength at end range to allow the nervous system to say, okay, that position's okay, and now we're able to generate strength from these odd positions. And that takes a very specific input to the system, not your traditional just sitting down, I'm going to do a calf stretch or a whatever stretch. We're actually putting ourselves in a position and then isometrically strengthening that position. That has huge benefits potentially. For instance, let's say I have really bad adductor flexibility, which is our groin area. Those are those muscles in there that you open up the knees, right? So I'm playing open guard. Matter of fact, one of the reasons why I really started on these programs is because I ripped my adductor. And you know how I did it? Playing open guard with someone with uncontrolled body weight, came down, passing through, just did this large dude, probably 220 pounds,
At
basically,
least.
basically fell on me forward, pinning one of my legs to the floor and pushing the other one the other way, forcibly ripping, basically ripping me apart, tearing my adductor. Now that I've been training in range in that, I've increased my usable range in that. So that same kind of angle of an opening of my adductors is no longer considered threatening by my nervous system, and I'm able to generate strength. And I also don't have that protective myotatic reflex trying to clamp down, making the muscle contract and then tearing under force. So that is an example where mobility, and we're not just, being able to control. I mean, one of the FRS guys, Dr. Spina, always talks about being able to control the movement around that joint space, to control it and use it with strength in various odd positions. So that absolutely, in my opinion, can prevent injury. But static stretching, not so much.
Okay.
Now, it doesn't mean static stretching doesn't have a place.
Sure.
Let's say I train that end range strength, and after I do that and inhibit the myotatic reflex, I then hold a static stretch in that position, almost uploading to my brain, hey, this position's okay. Right?
Yeah.
And so, again, this is nuanced. And when people just like to fire stuff like this, they.
So when they said flexibility means you'll have increased range of motion in certain position, however, it also means you'll be less strong in those positions.
Again, yes, pure flexibility is a passive thing. You're not training strength with flexibility.
Okay.
Whereas mobility with end range, you're training strength at end range. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you're actually training in that angle, in that position, isometrically to build strength in those positions. That's the
Okay.
difference between them. And the guy that's firing it should look up the FRS system and maybe go to an FRC course and maybe have his eyes opened a little bit.
Well, I hope somehow this reaches them. We can, if they would be interested, because they have, I think, a PhD, or a master's. I can't remember.
Give a rat's ass what their degree is
No,
anymore.
easy.
No, I'm just saying. You know what I hate? Because
he
I
might be willing to have a good conversation.
I would love to, but I will tell you, people that appeal to their degrees, I have a ton of degrees, so does my wife. It doesn't mean I'm smart.
Yeah.
A guy like Rob Wolf has a bachelor's degree. He's probably one of the smartest guys around here, be able to critically think, right? So that appeal to authority doesn't fly with me in general. So
I have a GED.
that's what but you're super intelligent.
Thank you.
So is my brother. You know what I mean?
You hear that, Andrew? Son of a gun.
I'm never going to compliment you again.
He tricked you into that one.
But that's that appeal to authority, and it's bullshit. I mean, we can see in the past 3 years what that's gotten us.
Right.
Without even saying any more than that.
Right.
So,
Which we're going to talk about him in the future. Right. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, you're really going to get me all run up.
He is science.
Oh, God.
Isn't that what he said?
Fauci did, yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if we could say his name.
Fuck that.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, sorry.
So that was those questions and comments came from a podcast with Craig Jones and Lachlan Giles.
Lachlan Giles is a physical therapist, by the way. Do people know that?
Well, he's the one that was saying this stuff.
What?
He was the one that said the thing about PRP and peptides and.
Well, he may not know. I respect Lachlan Giles.
Now, at the same time, I know that's why it was kind of a trap game.
Yeah.
Which the person that sent it in, which is a troll, wanted us to not tell you who said it. But I watched the clip, and I think Lachlan is saying, 5 years ago, he didn't see much about this stuff. That's just, he's probably doing a bunch of other stuff, whatever, trying now for ADCC.
Yeah.
But he said, the science may be much better, but I don't see much in that stuff.
So he's a very smart guy. So what he should look at is the application. So PRP, like I said, in knee joints, it doesn't really show much of anything. Lateral epicondylitis, huge benefit, right? Yeah. So again, we need to be careful when we make these statements and he as a healthcare provider, I don't know if he still actively practices, but no, he's obviously a very sharp guy. But and of course, I didn't hear what he said.
Of course, and and also Craig posed the questions in very trolly ways.
Of course, he did.
With starting it out with recovery's fake, right?
Which is hilarious.
That's how Craig posed it.
Oh, that's so okay. That puts it in the context.
Put Lachlan in a weird spot, and then the stretching thing. I didn't hear that part, but I have a feeling
he's right.
Yeah,
he's right about the stretching, and it can decrease power performance. It absolutely.
But that's
can.
why you train in a certain way.
Yeah, and when you don't necessarily train stretching and a certain time, you're not going to stretch right before you do a power activity like you're trying to do a high jump.
Right.
Yeah. That's funny. I like Lachlan Giles quite a bit.
We're going to tag him. Hopefully, it would be sweet to actually have a conversation with him.
Oh, he would be one that
if he brings up his PhD, I'll slap him in the mouth though.
No, he won't. He's not the type of guy that would. I don't think.
I'll slap him with my GED.
Oh my god.
You think I don't got that thing hanging above my wall?
Yeah.
Or above my computer? I look at it every morning.
I'm sure you do.
Edmonds Community College. What?
Do you see any diplomas in here?
Well, in your house, you have lights on them. It's super weird.
They're in a stack in a corner over here in this very building. I can show you.
Next to your Lego set.
Yeah.
Okay. Less exciting question, but equally important.
Okay.
This person says, okay, I'm walking around at 177 to 180 pounds, and I want to.
Is that you?
It's close, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But this is not me.
Okay.
I'd like you to stay out of my personal life as well.
You shouldn't show me your butt so much then.
That's not personal. That's called public property.
Oh, God.
Really, though?
Oh, I'm sorry. Just joking.
Please continue.
I'm walking around at 177 to 180 pounds, and I want to start supplementing with creatine for strength training and grappling endurance.
Yeah.
As it was mentioned in other podcasts, using creatine will make a person retain a few pounds of water, which will put me out of range for the IBJJF middleweight division, which is 181.5 with the gi.
With the gi, exactly.
Is it going to be the same method to cut weight before the comp while on creatine, or is it going to be hard to cut that 2 pounds of water that he would potentially get? So now his average is 179 to 182.
Yeah.
So is it going to be hard to cut that 2 pounds of water while on creatine?
So I haven't looked at the research on this because I'm sure someone has done it. I would
ask Lachlan.
He may know. I would suspect that it is. I would suspect it's a little more difficult.
Would you just cut the creatine?
Yeah, that's what I would do.
A week out?
I would.
It's kind of like the sodium stuff that we've done in the past.
Yeah,
is just.
I would cut it out.
As we take out our element or ballast electrolyte mix for our
right
water.
Before. Yeah.
A couple days out. Just do creatine a week out.
I would do it 2 weeks out.
2 weeks. Yeah,
I would. And
you're not going to lose all these benefits, and
so
I can't imagine.
Or the gains, you mean?
What?
Not if he's not going to lose any muscle mass he's gotten necessarily as far as that goes.
Endurance.
Well, it does have a. So again, creatine hits that phosphocreatine cycle,
right? Which
is that very first 10 to 12 seconds of the explosiveness and just all-out activity. If you're, you know what I would do before the competition? Once you play around with it,
it's a good idea.
Once you cut it out and do a simulated weight cut, and see how it goes. Right? It certainly can. You can retain a little more fluid with it for sure. Yep. So that's the problem with my whole thing on the weight cutting thing anyway.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
If it's more than a couple pounds, think you should probably go up in a weight class. But that's just my, or, if you have some body composition changes you can make.
Yeah. I mean, I assume they're not.
Yeah, you're assuming they're fairly lean.
You're going to assume that, but let's say this person, I mean, they're the only ones that can answer that, is how lean are you?
Right.
Or, I mean, do you have some, if you're not crazy lean already,
Yeah.
you're probably going to be okay.
Totally. And if you're not really, what you could do is like 6 months, like, hey, I know I'm going to be doing some competitions later in this year. I want to lose some body fat.
Mm-hmm.
If you have some body fat to lose.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Then you could start walking around at 175 on creatine.
Right. Yeah. Juice to the gills.
On creatine. Yeah.
Do you drink or do you take creatine just straight from the cup, like in the powder form, like no water, like a pre-workout?
I do not.
Why?
Because I'm not a savage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we knew that.
I put it in a drink.
Okay.
Yeah.
Weak stuff, huh?
Yeah, pretty much.
You vote for Biden too? Oh, not too far. I'm joking.
How dare you?
I'm joking. I love Joe Biden. I just want to get your opinion on this, because this is basically Korean to me. I don't know what the hell this.
Well, it's got to be Korean.
Why not? Oh yeah, you don't like Korean people.
You don't. You apparently don't. You keep going back to them. There's
my homies are Koreans.
I just did a podcast with a Korean that I like very much.
Yeah, but
and one of my
that was sympathy.
No,
podcast.
oh my God, you're not going to get me into this racist crap.
I know. You got caught once before.
No, I'm not going to get caught because I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're going to make me defend it more, and then I'm going to sound racist.
Okay, Bill, just
He's gonna sound racist, quote unquote.
oh my
Gosh,
God,
he's really defending himself.
Yeah.
I'm very upset by that.
Yeah, it's very defensive. So there's a prominent MD. I will reveal his name after. And I'm just wondering, like, I don't know. There was a bunch of big discussion on Twitter. Doesn't have to do with jiu-jitsu or anything, but this is what he said. Hold your grumpy old man noises. Quote, "This is not for everyone." He says, "I have become convinced that the biochemistry and pharmacology that I was taught in my youth is fundamentally flawed. It is all built on the assumption that the H2O surrounding the inside cells is in a liquid state, but it is actually in a gel state." I know that's fairly vague, but a huge conversation started out of that. Do you want to know who it is?
No, I don't.
Okay.
In a minute. So,
Yeah.
is he saying H2O is complexed with connective tissue?
I think it makes, when I read, because some other MDs like jumped in and he was saying, and they were like, "No, actually it's this," and he goes, "No, when you look at the composition of it, it's more of a gel than just an H2O, but there's still the elements in there." Ugh, it was.
So to me, this is the problem with doctors on YouTube, or not YouTube, on Twitter. Mm-hmm. So we're going to come up with one little thing to cause controversy instead of trying to get what 99% of us that are in the health and wellness thing agree on, to try to push that messaging. But we're going to start talking about whether the water is in a gel form or, water is complexed with other organic molecules.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, whatever you want to call that. And what does it matter? I mean, we use water it's an essential part for.
I have a feeling he was bringing up because maybe it's like an epiphany or something. So one guy responded with, "I disagree. Water and fats in cell are separated, not linked." And he said carbohydrates and proteins are not, and they structure the water around them. I don't know if that.
Yeah. So basically, water is complex with organic molecules. Now you have hydrophobic and hydrophilic interactions. Okay. Hydrophobic means that it's how cell lipid membranes maintain their integrity, right? So and it's how different type of amino acids fold based on their side groups. That some of the side groups don't like water, hydrophobic, and so they'll turn inwards, and it affects the way proteins are folded. Where hydrophilic or water loving, they'll be attracted, okay? Like polar molecules.
Yeah.
It's why certain vitamins are water soluble or fat soluble, okay? Because the water soluble vitamins mix readily with water and are hydrophilic in general and can be flushed through, where more fat soluble ones are hydrophobic and they need fats for absorption, right?
Okay.
But water is complex. It's not just typically just floating around there as these free H2O molecules in general.
Reading into it, like someone asked, what's the possible complications may arise from this deduction? Like, why are you even posting?
That's my question.
And his response was, all of the assumptions about concentration gradients are wrong. Pharmacology, pharmacokinetics. Okay. GED. Biochemistry all need to be revised. New ways of measuring, testing, and modeling must be devised. On a practical level, for example, this could explain why ivermectin works when the classical pharmacology models indicate that it cannot work at the concentrations achieved based on current models.
Okay, this is someone that is misunderstanding things. So
they're a viral. I think it's called a virologist.
So they're a PhD. They're not a physician.
I assume.
Yeah.
They are science. Yeah.
Okay.
Biochemist.
Yeah. So my bachelor's is biochemistry. Carrie has a master's in
biothesis. I don't know.
Whatever.
It's Malone.
Oh, it's Robert Malone.
Yeah.
Oh no, he's an MD. He's an MD.
Okay. Yeah, he has MD, but I don't know what the hell he's considered.
So this is a thing. No, I don't think that's ridiculous. Pharmacokinetics in general, and he's a very smart guy. I mean, obviously, but we've measured. It's a measurement issue. We've measured pharmacokinetics on everything. We have assays to measure this. How the intervening parts, or what's happening. We still have these endpoints of what's happening. Mm-hmm. So we know what the pharmacokinetics and toxicokinetics. Pharmacokinetics and toxicokinetics are the same thing, except one is measuring pharmaceuticals, one is measuring toxicants, which you could say are probably the same thing anyway, depending on, one's a poison, one, I guess, depends on the dose.
Right.
But it's how those things are processed through the body by the various systems, like the cytochrome P450 systems, those things, the detox pathways we're talking about. Yeah, random. Remember we talked about the detox?
Yeah,
Olivia and I went off on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so those are the pathways that when we measure pharmacokinetics, what is the half-life of something? You probably have heard of that in the bloodstream. Mm-hmm. It's how fastly it's metabolized through these systems. We've measured these things very accurately. Whether or not that's in a gel or whatever he's saying, it's to me, it's irrelevant.
Whatever the viscosity of it is, doesn't matter.
Now, effectiveness or efficacy is a different thing. You have to design a trial to actually show something. And on ivermectin, if you look at a lot of the literature, a lot of these clinical trials were set up to fail anyway for a variety of reasons, where they're not
low dose.
They're not. Yeah. So there's a bunch of just blatantly problematic things in the experimental design that has nothing to do with the pharmacokinetics.
Okay. Yeah, just a side note, he said it was a lecture by Nobel laureate Phil Sharp at MIT, which he attended in February 2020 that got him thinking about it. So he's like,
oh, cool.
Just
we should
pointing
all
out why he even started thinking about
Sure,
this.
And I think we all need to think about, years ago, they said before we learned about H. pylori and stomach ulcers, the guy in Australia, the physician that was say, hey, I think this bacteria is causing this stuff.
Yeah.
They were like, you're full of crap, blah, 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 until he inoculated himself. And
right.
So we need to be humble on these things for sure. But my point is, I don't know what his point would be. You don't need to, we already have very good assay tools for pharmacokinetics in how we get from A to Z. Maybe we don't fully understand, but we understand the outcomes.
And I have a feeling Twitter isn't a perfect medium to put those thoughts out there because it's such short form, and it's like, you can't. I mean, he admits this too. Is long form podcasts are the way to really sift through thoughts and stuff.
When you make a statement like that, when we need to just turn everything on its head. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think we need to refine a bunch of stuff, and if something new comes out that shows us that we were wrong definitively, then you need to pivot and change, which we have a real hard time doing now, as apparently.
Does that mean, because just so people know, I have E. coli. Does that
all
mean
of us have E. coli?
Well, I'm trying to be special here. I have a certain kind.
Well, we have many
makes
kinds.
Me special.
Are you sure?
I had to poop in a bucket and scoop it into a pill bottle.
You may have an overgrowth of something.
Okay.
Okay.
An overgrowth of E. coli?
Of a certain type. You could have, it's called dysbiosis, where you can have an overgrowth, especially gram-negative bacteria like that could cause a problem for you. But we have E. coli all the time, right?
Do you know what I have, honey?
It's called fecal coliform. That's what E. coli is.
I don't know.
You may have an
I have to get on antibiotics.
yeah, you may have an overgrowth.
But my question is, can I consider myself a survivor once I get rid of the E.
Yes,
coli overgrowth?
you can.
Hashtag me too.
Oh my gosh, Bill. Okay, can I ask Chris a question?
Yeah, if anyone stayed past that super nerd alert section that we just did, praise you.
You asked the damn question.
I did. I was interested.
Okay.
'Cause I wanted to know what the hell he's
And you're
talking
giving me
about.
a freaking hard time about answering it.
A little bit.
Okay.
But I had no idea what you were saying. And I'm just saying, that was super nerd alert. I enjoyed it. I think other people did too, but I'm sure some people were like, I don't know what's
This
going on.
isn't jujitsu. I don't know what the heck's going on
Okay,
here.
well, this isn't jujitsu either,
Yeah.
Keep it going.
but okay. So you know how you actually brought up the whole like liver and the detox and stuff like that. How we have the pathways like the
Cytochrome
like
P450, yeah.
step 1 and step 2 or whatever
Yeah.
in the liver. Is it possible though? Because people always online they talk about your liver, you need a detox or whatever. And I know that there are supplements that can support the liver, but does the liver's detox pathways ever get clogged up or backed up from having too many toxins in the body to have to sift through?
They don't get backed up. The liver cell, the hepatocytes in general can be overwhelmed and die.
Okay.
Okay.
It's a hepatocyte.
Hepatocyte. It's a cell of the liver. Yeah. If you heard of hepatitis, that's an infection of the liver. That's the prefix for meaning liver.
Okay.
Yeah. Hepatocyte just means liver cell.
Okay.
So they can get, their systems internally can get overwhelmed by, and that's why like acetaminophen, Tylenol, in high doses can cause liver failure. Basically, you overwhelm the liver's internal mechanisms to turn that thing into something that is toxic, and to try to get it out of the body, you can overwhelm it. It doesn't get clogged per se. You can actually kill the liver cells is what happens. Now, you can upregulate some of those mechanisms, the P450 systems, to maybe help speed up drug or toxicant metabolism. That's the whole thing of how drug interactions happen, by the way. Like if I give someone, azithromycin or the macrolide antibiotics are classic for this. They are metabolized by a very common P450 isotype or isoform. I forgot which one it is, but other ones that are competing, that are being processed by that same pathway. If you have two medications that are so-called, interacting, they're usually trying to be processed by the same pathway, and you can overwhelm the pathway.
So what does like milk thistle do then? Like, why do people talk about like using that to support the liver?
So I would have to look at the molecular mechanisms. I'm not really sure if they've even worked out how that works. I'd have to go look it up.
But I'm just assuming if your ALT and your AST enzymes are good, then that means your liver's probably
because
running properly,
those transferase enzymes are internal to the hepatocytes, and when they're spilled into the blood is what you're testing. It's indicative of liver cell damage, and the liver does turn itself over and regenerates very well, right? So that's why like high fructose corn syrup or alcohol or all that stuff that has to be processed through the liver can cause inflammatory reactions in the liver and increase transaminases, which is ALT and AST.
Oh, so like, are we talking about like a non-alcoholic fatty liver disease.
Yeah. So, or
increase those
alcoholic
levels.
fatty liver disease. You basically, that it's different. That's a metabolic thing where it can't export it fast enough, and you start to infiltrate the liver with fat.
Okay.
Yeah.
That
That's
was-
when people that drink like a ton of soda or like a ton of alcohol.
Orange juice, I guess, now for children.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Remember you
big sugar
mentioning
load. The
that.
liver has to
Yeah.
deal with it. I mean, we have, and people with non-alcoholic or alcoholic fatty liver disease will have this chronic low-level transaminase elevation. So your AST and LLT, you'll have this. Whereas something like a liver failure or hepatitis, you have this sky high because it's a very acute issue.
Okay.
Yeah, if you hit someone, like someone had like Tylenol poisoning, that can be fatal very quickly. You have to treat that very quickly with something like NAC or something up to scarf up all those free radicals that are generated. Otherwise, the liver will be destroyed basically.
If you are someone having trouble kicking soda, like Pepsi, like I was hardcore addicted to Pepsi. Like it since I was a teenager at home. Zevia is a good,
I like it.
like to help get off of that soda train, which or because you find yourself wanting to like have something fizzy that doesn't taste bad, and I would say Zevia, it tastes as good as any like fizzy drink.
And what we don't know yet, I mean, we think stevia, which is it's flavored by, is generally safe, but we're still not sure what it's doing to our reward systems in the brain as far as body fat regulation. So we still don't really have a full understanding of that yet, because even though it's non-caloric, it could
without
still
food coloring and all that crap.
Yeah, but well, it's not. Yeah, and it's good as far as that goes. But we
Right.
still don't know what that sweet taste is still telling the brain something. You know.
Yeah, so it's not that it's perfect, but
Yeah, it's certainly better. I think.
it did help me as someone that was drinking a butt ton of Pepsi.
And and stevia seems to be a lot better than things like aspartame and all those other artificial sweeteners in general, so far at least.
So if someone's battling with that, I'd recommend giving Zevia.
You know what's
a try.
interesting? We have that filtered water system, and we have that
Soda spray. Or
that
something?
soda stream.
Yeah.
But we don't use any of the flavoring. We just bubble up the water.
Oh,
and
yeah.
for some reason, that's like satisfying.
It's like a Sprite or something. Like it just.
But it's
tastes
just
fine.
water with bubbled water, basically. You know, it's interesting.
The Luis, the Brazilian tractor, he does the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do all the time. We go through those little CO2 canisters and that quite frequently.
Yeah. So just some good options for if anyone, because the soda thing it's unhealthy, but there's like an addiction that can.
And you know
come
what
with
you
that,
can
so.
do with that too? If you could try, you could kind of fuzz up some water like that. That's what we call it, fuzz up some. And then take some lime or lemon juice and just squirt a little bit of that in there too.
Nice. Just
That's
a
kind of
little
nice.
something.
Yeah, with some bubbly water.
It's like LaCroix or whatever it's called.
LaCroix.
Yeah. Have you seen those memes where it's like there's so little taste that it looks like they just ran a faucet through like a slice of lemon and just let the water. That's like the lemon version.
Yeah, but you could do it yourself and probably be better.
Probably. We got jiu-jitsu. We got to go.
Yeah, we do got to go. We got to train tonight.
So thanks, y'all, for the questions. If you got any more, let us know. We're going to see if we can get Lachlan Giles on.
I'm going to be recording a new workout thing too
Yep.
next week. So
If you guys got any questions, like you want him to, like, hey, I really want to get my core workout, or I want big old chest muscles, throw something at us.
I'm not the guy to ask for that.
Well, we're going to do it anyways.
Okay.
Later.
Bye.